All right, hello and welcome to The Hill. This is a live look right now, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where the questions in the race for the White House are all over the map. For President Biden, is his administration close to a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas? And for Donald Trump, it's now reached this. Is he one comment away from actually being jailed after trashing the judge in his New York trial yet again? The former president suggesting that option is on the table.
This judge has given me a gag order and said you'll go to jail if you violate it. And frankly, you know what? Our Constitution is much more important than jail. It's not even close.
Come on in. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. All right, here we are. Here we go. Hanging out with us today on this Monday, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Ashley Davis, former George W. Bush White House official. Scott Bolden, former D.C. Democratic Party chairman, NewsNation contributor as well. And Denise Gitsham, Republican strategist and NewsNation contributor. Hello to you all. Happy Monday. We got a lot going on coming out of the gate here on this Monday. Morgan Ortagus is going to be joining us momentarily on we were just talking about it, trying to figure out what is going on right now between Israel and Hamas and the back and forth. Mick Mulvaney just landed from Europe, is on a cab to the studio. Wow. Yeah, that's
committed.
That is commitment. Mick will be joining us here soon.
Can't wait to see the outfit.
For Mick, you're going to break down some new polling numbers as well. But first, Donald Trump and those comments from earlier today in which the judge in that case, Judge Marchand, essentially said, one more time, and you might be going to jail. And Trump said, I'll put the Constitution over that any day of the week. You think he actually wants it to go that far?
Well, he may think that he wants it to go that far.
Okay.
And this is one of those things about self-talk in politics, that you convince yourself that something's true. What the Republicans did was they convinced themselves that it didn't matter whether Donald Trump faced criminal charges and that it just didn't matter. And they did a good job of convincing themselves. They did it for themselves. We're in the general election now, and Donald Trump's numbers are going the wrong direction right now. I don't know that it's because of this trial, but I know that in an election where you have two candidates who have 100% name ID, they're universally known and mostly disliked, being the guy who is in the news every day for going to jail, being the first former president to go to jail, I don't think helps with
So it hasn't gotten there yet. The judge in the case today saying, quote, Mr. Trump, it's important you understand the last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You're the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well. But Scott's been on this. Last week, Scott was like, I'm telling you, Blake, I think it's happening. And then this morning, I'm walking through the front door. I got a text from Bolden. I'm telling you, Blake, I think this is happening.
This dichotomy between politics, which you all are experts on.
And not you.
And the criminal justice. Maybe not. I can be an expert
former
on
D.C. Democratic Party chairman there. Proceed, counselor.
You're all politics all the time.
Notwithstanding my colleague, I also know the criminal justice system. And Marchand is not to be messed with. See, I draw this dichotomy about politics, but the criminal justice system doesn't care. Okay, Marchand is being very tempered. He's got 10 violations of his order. I grew up with a state judge. They don't like their orders being violated.
And he's being fined.
Circumstances.
So Trump's been fined $10,000, right, which is pennies for Donald Trump.
That's really all the judge can do. Now, what the judge is doing, and I said this last week, is setting him up to put him in jail, not for 30 days or 15 days. He can step him back. There's a cell right behind the judge in the chambers that he can put him there over lunch or a couple hours. The other thing is I want to make real clear. The judge has given Trump so much leeway. I've been threatened with jail for 1 or 2 violations of a criminal court order. This is not, well, you don't have your brothers as a criminal defense lawyer. You haven't been threatened or your client hasn't been threatened.
Untold boldness. I like it.
And you stand in front of your client like this, right?
Yeah.
But so the leeway with these 10 violations, any other defendant, he would be put away by now.
So let's say Scott's right. And let's say that this happens. Again, no idea if it happens. But the judge has basically said one more, that's it.
Yeah.
And if it happens, what? next.
Well, I don't know if he's in jail for a couple hours. Obviously, the logistics of going to jail overnight with the Secret Service, which is going to be
they've been meeting to work that out in anticipation of it. These
But-
fully published reports.
But that's a whole other layer, so it probably would be hours. You don't think him in jail for hours with his base, especially, and maybe some others that are, especially in the African American community, that are starting to tilt his way, is helpful?
Not because he's a criminal
Spinal
defendant.
Tap? You ever seen the movie Spinal Tap?
Oh, I don't really.
So it says this one goes to 11. 11 isn't really any louder than 10. Trump is already, if this would move you to support Donald Trump, you're already supporting Donald Trump, right? He has palpated the glands of MAGA Nation. They're in, they love it, they're there. But now we're talking about the 6% of the electorate that's persuadable, and I just don't know that this is.
I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, the notion that all PR is good PR except for really, really bad PR is pretty standard in my industry. And I think that you have to know how far to push it if you're President Trump, right? On one hand, he's stuck between like a rock and some bars, very cold metal bars, because he has to campaign. This is his only thing to campaign on when he's out in front of these cameras. And so if he's not talking about this and the weaponization that he's using as a campaign platform, then what is he going to talk about? Like, what's he going to rally people
Scott's
to?
point that it could, and I had not thought about that, is an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what Scott, you had been saying.
The judge has got to get compliant. This is a struggle between him and Trump of who's going to control this courtroom. 10 violations of an order makes zero sense. And let me tell you, I've been to a lot of jails since I was a kid, and jail is no fun. Visiting. Jail is no fun. And I got to tell you, a couple hours in jail for Donald Trump,
Would be awesome.
You may see a different Donald Trump, at least temporarily.
Trump, this is lunch for jailing. I think
It is disrespectful to the judge.
Meantime, up the road from the Manhattan courthouse, Columbia University, and today Columbia caved once again. This time over graduation ceremonies. The university is canceling its main commencement ceremony after weeks of anti-Israel protests, with the New York Police Department at one point even having to forcefully enter a school building after making arrests after it was commandeered. A statement on the university website says in part, quote, "We have decided to make this centerpiece of our commencement activities our class days and school-level ceremonies, where students are honored individually alongside their peers, rather than the university-wide ceremony that is scheduled for May 15th. Now, one Columbia professor is now apologizing to students, saying in part, quote, "I must say, you deserve better. Your parents and family members, who are extremely proud of your achievements, deserve better." The professor goes on to say the university was happy to take hundreds of thousands of dollars from you. The least it could do is give you the graduation that you have deserved and earned. Scott, he's 100% right, is he not?
I do, having a son at Morehouse College, and we're going to be dealing with that, a similar issue with Biden coming for commencement in a week or two. I don't understand, Blake, the connect between not holding the ceremony and the disbandment of the protests. I understand them separately, but I don't understand the connection as to why they
can't contain it. I mean, they haven't been able to contain anything there for weeks.
Well, they need to figure that out. It's their job to figure that out. And that's a lot of money to take from students and their parents to give them an education.
What's the recourse? Because they haven't been in class now for what, like 10 days? Now there's not a graduation. I mean, that thing is $90,000 all in. Not everybody pays that, obviously, but.
So, sorry, Blake, but you keep seeing this, which is, I think, what happened in the high schools back in 2021 after COVID and critical race theory and all of that. The parents are starting to have their groundswell and of being angry about all of these schools, not just Columbia, about how the students are missing so much class. And I just wonder, I think that this is definitely going to impact the election. I'd actually like to hear from you on that, because is it too far out?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you think that Biden should be paying more attention to the parents and not these kids.
Yeah, I think when you have to choose between your base and persuadable voters, you do everything you can to not. You do everything you can to not choose. And Biden tried that for a long time. But the problem with this is it's the same way that the riots of 2020 hurt Donald Trump. If you're the party in power, if you're in office, and there is chaos, there is disorder, there are these things are going on, the people who have low esteem for both parties, for both candidates, whatever, say everything's a mess, this guy's out of control, this is out of control, we got to make a change. And this is a liability for Biden, and it is an opportunity for him to step forward and say to middle class, parents of college students, parents of former college students. This is preposterous, and it's actually it's a freebie. It's almost a freebie because the people who are living in tents to protest Joe Biden are not coming back to vote for Joe Biden.
So here was Tom Cotton over the weekend, Senator, Republican. He predicts, headline, Cotton predicts campus protests will result in 2024 win for Trump. Is there a direct line here?
Well, it's not. There's no one thing that's going to force people over the finish line at this point, right? But it's those independents that we keep talking about, where the reason it's so effective for these images to keep coming up in Trump's favor is because Biden has repeatedly, and Democrats repeatedly campaigned against Trump as the chaos candidate. And now we're seeing more chaos across the world and across our campuses and across America and our cities and now our college campuses and even high schools in Chicago under a president that has always campaigned on order and civility.
Well, but Biden's not in those images and not on the ground.
Yeah, that's the problem, because he's reacting.
Oh, you want him to go join the protests and take control?
No, I want him to say
I'll tell you what chaos is.
He didn't even talk to the administrators.
Orderly chaos is Donald Trump going to a courtroom every day. And that's the chaos that independents are going to remember. It's called orderly chaos. I'll do my best.
I know.
But the reality is that these protests are going to end. This war, Hamas and Israel war, is going to be resolved. At least it feels like it's going to be resolved. Maybe not. But we're still 6 months out, right? You still got the economy. The abortion issue is not going away. And these protests are probably going to go away.
They're going to Chicago.
If it gets resolved.
Well, that's what I was going to say. These protests are probably transitory, but inflation, not transitory. The southern border, not transitory. Abortion, not transitory.
But we'll
have to see how this plays out. Of course, come on in, Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokeswoman in the Trump administration, friend of the show as well. Hello, Morgan. So from the college campuses to beyond, let's go to the Middle East for a second. It's been a frenetic 48 hours there. Just to go sort of high level here, ceasefire talks broke down over the weekend. President Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they spoke this morning. Then Hamas announced a deal was reached, though that was seemingly a PR stunt before Israel proceeded to move on Rafah. That is the key town in the southern Gaza Strip, as you know. I want to get your reaction on the other side, Morgan, because here was the White House earlier today.
We are at a critical stage right now. I mean, my goodness, folks, I don't know that it gets any more sensitive than right now.
All right, so with that as the backdrop and being a former State Department spokesperson as you are, take us behind the scenes here. What's your read, Morgan, on what's actually happening?
Well, let's remember there's been a lot of back and forth negotiations. You've had the CIA director, State Department officials, the White House involved with Israel, with Qatar, with Egypt. Now, to set the record straight, there was a ceasefire proposal last week that Israel had agreed to. Even Blinken agreed to it, and he's not been very pro-Israel lately. And you also had Egypt, Qatar saying this was a good deal. Hamas turned down that ceasefire proposal last week, and then just days later, they attacked the aid convoy that was trying to get to Palestinians, that was trying to get to Gazans, which resulted in the death of 4 Israeli soldiers. That is important context for this conversation because it's important to note that anyone who thinks that Hamas is doing this for the freedom of the Palestinian people or that garbage, listen, it's obviously not true. The only reason I think that they put out today that they were agreeing to a ceasefire was basically it was a PR move, because what happened over the weekend after Hamas turned down the ceasefire deal, which even reportedly upset this administration, and after they killed 4 Israeli soldiers, the Israelis started putting out in Arabic broadcast media and Arabic leaflets. They started dropping leaflets and in Arabic text messages warning Palestinians that they needed to start getting out of Rafah because they were going to start moving in. So all of a sudden, Hamas realizes, Israel's serious. They may be moving in. And so then they say today, we've accepted a ceasefire, knowing full well this was not a ceasefire that Israel has accepted. It was just a PR stunt today. The only time Hamas has moved during this war since October 7th, Blake, is whenever there was pressure on them. That's the only time they move, not when we pressure Israel.
So what about pressure potentially on Israel? Because there was a story over the weekend from Axios. Scoop, U.S. put a hold on ammunition shipment to Israel. The White House would not confirm this or really deny it earlier today, Morgan. What's this about? Does this mean that maybe a ceasefire could happen, and so they're holding this back, or as sort of a show of good faith, or is this bad policy?
Nope.
Okay.
I think what it is at the moment, probably, Blake, is that the Biden administration was putting it out there. They said it today, actually, in the State Department briefing from the State Department spokesperson. They said we do not support a Rafah, for Israel to go into a Rafah invasion. So I think that the Biden administration probably leaked that this weekend in order to let the Israelis know, listen, we don't support this, and if you go in, we may consider stopping military shipments. It's also another probably throwing a bone to the base as well. I do think it's bad policy because, listen, ultimately, Bibi Netanyahu and the entire war cabinet, I mean, even if you talk to Benny Gantz or other people who could potentially be prime minister after Netanyahu, all across the political spectrum, Israelis all agree that Hamas has to be defeated militarily. And you can't defeat Hamas militarily without going into Rafah.
Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson. Morgan, great to see you as always. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, still to come here from the Hill on NewsNation over the next 44 minutes. How do you lose hundreds of millions of dollars in shareholder value over a post on X? Well, it happened, and now the head of a multi-billion-dollar company is talking what the CEO of the company, Hims, is now saying after he cheered on campus protests. Plus, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, meeting face-to-face just a little while ago here in Washington. She wants him gone. Democrats say that's not happening. So what's coming next? And you are breaking down what?
You'll be as surprised as Marjorie Taylor Greene looked at that picture when I share with you what is inside these documents that will blow your mind about it. Actually, this is true. I'm not actually kidding this time. We have a big shift in the presidential race, particularly with some core voter groups. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be great.
Steyerwalt breaks it down on the other side of the break. Mick Mulvaney from Europe to this show. I'm checking my phone because he's given me his whereabouts.
Wooden shoes.
Hot mic with Mick later here on The Hill. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Some movement, perhaps, in the race for the White House. New numbers are out giving a glimpse, at least for the moment, into who some of the key constituencies are supporting. Steyerwalt is here to break it all down. Chris?
Now, you know, I'm always going to shoot you people straight about the quality of polls. And I will not say that this is the primo stuff. This is not like the uncut gems. But this is a good poll. This is a high-quality poll. This is USA Today. Suffolk University does this poll for USA Today. Here are the numbers in the horse race, the three-way horse race with President Biden against challenger Donald Trump and independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What do you see? You see Trump down 2, Biden holding steady, and RFK Jr. down 2. Now, that's good for Biden because pretty obviously he didn't lose any ground. But when you have the other two guys down 4 points together, how come there's no ups? We'll get to that. Now let's look at the next graphic. And you see here, what about with black voters? How is Joe Biden doing with black voters? Up 7, that's wrong. It's not up 7%. It's up 7 points, I think. But he is up with black voters, whereas Trump is holding steady. He is not showing any growth with black voters over this period of time. Next graphic will show is Hispanic voters. How about that? Donald Trump down 11 points, not percent, sorry, with Hispanic voters. Biden, same. Okay, younger voters. How's it going there? Oh, wait a minute. Trump down 11 points again, and Biden up, so basically the same. There's a narrative that you see coming through all of these polls. Other voters who were not typical Republican voters probably didn't vote for Trump before, maybe because they were younger. These are lower propensity voters. Remember, anytime we talk about an oversample of black voters or Hispanic voters, we're going to talk about a lot of working class and working poor voters just because of overrepresentation of those groups in those numbers. Net, you're going to have a lower propensity group of voters. That means they decide late. They come into the process late. So what you see here is the footprint of voters who came in, said, I don't like Biden, maybe it's Trump, and then they went, nah, I'm not really going to do that, is what they said. So that's good for Biden, that they didn't find a happy home with Donald Trump. But I want you to see this headline. I'm not even going to show you the numbers in this poll because it's not even good enough to be talked of as sub-primo. But the numbers here do tell the story, which is fewer black Americans plan to vote in 2024. And that's from a poll for the Washington Post and Ipsos. And that's the problem that Biden's got. They may not want Trump, but that doesn't mean that they're going to vote. And Biden needs them to get out there, at least some of them.
Steyerwalt breaks it down. I thought you wanted to.
I did, actually. The key word in that last report about African Americans don't plan on voting is plan.
Right.
You know, Mike Tyson said everybody got a plan. When they get hit in the face with the choice, as we grow 6 months in, 3 months in, I think you'll see them coming back. The Democrats have more money. And this close race is always about what? The ground game.
Turnout.
And I got to tell you, given the choice, Hispanic and African American voters, I can tell you the Democrats are relying on them coming back and coming home, and some things fall in their way because we don't want them to stay home. We want everybody to
a motif that we're going to come back to again and again in the next 6 months. We're 5 months and 29 days from the election. That is going to come back again and again. Republicans don't like Biden. Duh. They like Trump more than Democrats like Biden. There's more enthusiasm for Trump on the Republican side than there is for Biden on the Democratic side. But Democrats are as afraid of Donald Trump as if he were a rattlesnake in their sleeping bag. And they may not want to go vote for Joe Biden, but they will go vote against Donald Trump, and that's going to be a powerful motivator.
Yeah. I also think it's important to note that even though we're seeing positive movement for Biden, these numbers are nowhere near what they were in 2020 for him. And so that plus the complete lack of enthusiasm, it's a 20-something% gap the last time I looked in terms of how excited the Democrats are.
This is the problem that Hillary Clinton had in 2016.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a bad candidate and he's unpopular and his numbers go down. And then where's the other ear of the Mickey Mouse balloon going up? Hillary Clinton couldn't break 50 when Donald Trump was caught bragging about grabbing women by certain body parts, and she couldn't crack 50 when he went down to 30. And Biden needs to get some of those points back on his side.
Biden's got to be a better candidate. When you look at it, better candidate than Hillary Clinton was.
So damning with faint praise.
So we got
no one thought that at the time.
Real quick before
she was a great candidate.
Well, clearly the Democrats didn't think so because they didn't come out and vote for her. I mean,
not even Bill.
Something happened over the weekend. Show it real quick. Kentucky Derby, NASCAR race. Did you see how those things finished? Photo finish at the end. Where was the NASCAR? Oh man, they were a lot closer than that. Is that where we are right now in this race? Are we getting to neck and neck?
It's muddy and it smells like gasoline. So
that's where we are.
That's where we're at.
All right.
But morning comes.
Still much more ahead here on the Hill. Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that interview with the governor and Elizabeth Vargas just a little while ago. She's got a book out, Kristi Noem does, and she's catching some flack for it, what she says and what it might mean for her potential vice presidential aspirations. That's when we return here on the Hill. Plus, where is Mulvaney? We're finding out. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. So one post, roughly $200 million gone. That's what happened last week when the Palestinian-American CEO of the company Hims, Andrew Dudum, posted this to X, writing, quote, "Moral courage is greater than a college degree. If you're currently protesting against the genocide of the Palestinian people and for your university's divestment from Israel, keep going. It's working. There are plenty of companies and CEOs eager to hire you. Regardless of university discipline, apply here." But after that post, his company's stock share dropped by 10%. It's a couple $100 million. He followed up over the weekend with a new thread saying his words have been, quote unquote, misconstrued. Now, this afternoon, Hims, by the way, had its quarterly earnings call. They reported they crushed, right? Like sales were up through the roof. Great quarter for them. It basically brought their stock price back to where it was before this initial post.
Wow. Well, the problem with this is that he has a fiduciary responsibility to his shareholders.
To the shareholders.
Yeah, I mean, this is why CEOs should not get involved in social issues.
It surprises me that anyone is surprised by this. I mean, you're the freaking CEO. I mean, how do you not know that everything you say, corporate communications is going to be taken by people, and people are going to act on them. And also, I don't really think it was his offer to hire people that were protesting that upset people. It was saying that, the genocide, the way he posed how this war was playing out and what its intentions were, was really
he brought up divestment from Israel.
Yes.
I know. Does he not realize that it's the parents of those students that are seeing all this chaos that are the ones that are buying his stock? It's not the 19-year-olds.
I don't think that's the culture of the company or the politics of the company either, and the shareholders certainly not. He can't speak for all of them. I agree with my colleagues. He probably should stay out of this, at least as well as the detail of what he said, because there are other ways for him to convey his thoughts, but they're his personal thoughts. But even if it was personal, I think the stock would have gone down, notwithstanding.
That will be interesting to see if he's pulled up in front of Congress, because I think that...
You think Congress will get involved with this?
I think they could pull him up, because I think he could have potentially broke... he could get in trouble by SEC.
Huh. Well, it'll just give us an opportunity to trot out the old electile dysfunction headline. That'll be enough. That'll be good. It'll be worth
it. Good job.
Why wouldn't you pull him up?
Why wouldn't you pull him up?
I mean, it's a good...
The stock will always...
Who oversees that?
Well, it would be the SEC for the protecting the shareholders. If the shareholders want to bring a suit up against them.
Can we go back to Chris's statement? That was the best of the day. I'm really impressed.
Chris just wanted to speak.
I wouldn't worry about him. I wouldn't worry about him's company stock going down at any point in time. It's always going to be up.
It had a great day today, but it brought it back to where it was before he made those comments.
Oh, man.
All right, he is known as the Oracle of Omaha, and when he talks, it is a very good idea to listen. Over the weekend, thousands of investors flocked to Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meeting. Perhaps the most notable moment coming when a kid, probably was, 10, 12 years old, give or take, asked Warren Buffett this question right here.
I'm wondering, if you had one more day with Charlie, what would you do with him?
Drew a laugh there for Buffett, as you saw. The reference is to Charlie Munger, an icon in his own right, and Buffett's longtime business partner, who passed away recently at 99 years old. Now, what followed, Buffett's response to that, was seemingly a stream of conscience response. This was the very end of it. Watch.
But it's an interesting question. What you should probably ask yourself is that, who do you feel that you'd want to start spending the last day of your life with, and then figure out a way to start meeting them or tomorrow.
Such good advice.
Yeah.
I mean,
such a good story.
Life is a binary choice, right? The way we spend our time, if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Right.
And I think that's probably the best life advice he could have given to anyone.
What comes to mind for me is the idea when people say, I just haven't had the time to do this, I haven't had time to do that. Especially in Washington, we take time to do what we prioritize, right? Mm-hmm. And so we do what we want to do, no matter how busy you are, because busy people get things done. But it's a priority, and we ought to be prioritizing people who are important to us, not just money or politics.
What are you jotting down there?
I'm sitting here thinking that I hope my son knows who Charlie Munger is. I don't know if he does. I don't think
Warren Buffett in that said Charlie Munger, who was his right hand, had basically the who's who around the world in the last years of his life, showing up to Omaha, knocking on the front door to try to get a word with Charlie Munger. What was your thought?
Was that what you were like when you were 11?
Mm-hmm. Asking those questions?
Was that you? Berman means business, and I believe that could have been you at 11.
I thought that was the most interesting thing I saw from over the weekend.
Yeah.
I really do. It was a 7-minute clip. Warren Buffett got pretty stunned by this
and
kid.
Emotional.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, I sent it out to the whole staff. It was just like, take time to watch it.
And have friends, right? And especially for dudes, we don't do a very good job in our adult lives of having friends. Find places to plug in, build the relationships that you're going to count on, so that you have somebody to get weepy over.
See friendships. A lot of my friends don't see friendship as an investment of time. We need to be better at that. I think. Obviously,
are they not calling you back? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
you're trying to get them to go.
So you know who we've all become friends with here on this show? Mick Mulvaney.
Yeah.
We got a shot of Mulvaney. Hello, Mick. Where are you? Mick woke up this morning. He's cross-eyed because he woke up this morning halfway around the world. Mick texted me over the Atlantic today and was like, I think I can make the show. Right. I don't know. I'm going to try to get there. You landed at what time this afternoon, Mick?
I landed about an hour and a half ago at Dulles. I've been in these clothes for about 18 hours. You put me in a small room by myself off the floor so that you folks don't have... That's exactly right. Thank you, Denise. Because I stink. But I'm looking forward to doing Hot Mic with Mick, whatever the topics happen to be, Berman.
Kristi Noem was on Elizabeth Vargas' show, and I want to get your thoughts on what Kristi Noem had to say. Hot Mic with Mick. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. See you on the other side. Thinking, all right, Mulvaney, back from the other side of the globe. We thank you. Let's start with Kristi Noem, the South Dakota governor. She's been all over the news recently for a lot of wrong reasons. Now her publisher is removing a section from her new book, claiming that she met with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The governor spoke with Elizabeth Vargas just a little while ago. I want you to watch this. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
When this was brought to my attention, I immediately took actions and asked to have his name removed.
But why did you remove it? Is it because it's untrue, that message?
No, this is something that I think I'm not going to talk about. I don't talk about personal meetings with world leaders. I mean, and I took responsibility for it. The buck stops with me.
All right, Mick, so what does this mean for her vice presidential chances?
Yeah, since I was taking the subway in from the airport, I got a chance to do a little research, and it turns out just in the last couple of minutes, one of her folks has done an interview with Axios where he says she never met with Kim Jong-un. There was an error. Right. They're blaming it on the ghostwriter. Why the story changed between an hour ago when Kristi talked to Liz Vargas and now I have no idea. It's been a rough last 72 hours.
Well, there was also Mick, the audiobook, right?
Yeah,
where she had to voice this. Yeah. So at that point in time, you would think that you would stop yourself and be like, no, I didn't meet with Kim Jong-un.
I know Kristi fairly well. We came into Congress together in 2010. She's a sharp lady. There's no question about it. These are the Bush League kind of mistakes that you can, I guess, get away with when you're a governor of a small state. But this is the kind of stuff that you can't have when you're being seriously considered as a potential vice presidential candidate. Right. This, on top of the mismanagement of the issue with her dog, has been a really rough 72 hours. I'd be surprised if she's still on any list at Mar-a-Lago, at least as of tonight.
Were you the chief of staff when Trump met with Kim Jong-un?
Twice. We did once in Vietnam, and then once in the very sort of famous meeting that we did in an impromptu basis at the DMZ.
Yeah. So can you explain for the folks at home watching us here on NewsNation or listening on SiriusXM, you don't just show up and meet with Kim Jong-un, right?
No, and it's also not the type of thing you sort of, did I meet with Kim Jong-un or not? I mean, if Scott Bolden meets me... If Scott Bolden meets me at a baseball game or a dinner party, he might go, you know what, I think I may have met Mick Mulvaney, I'm not really sure. When you meet the leader of North Korea, that's the type of thing that either you do or you don't. So I'm not sure where this is coming from.
You all with Mick that she's
I agree.
Chances are done.
I don't even think we should say, is she a potential VP candidate? I just don't.
You're having a bad day when the story of a fake meeting with Kim Jong-un is a better story than the previous story, which was about shooting your dog, right? So that's like that. When this is an improvement for her, it's been a rough couple of weeks.
I'm going to meet with Mick Mulvaney one day soon outside of the studio.
But will you remember it?
Heavy security.
Hey, Mick, real quick before we turn to the next one, you have a leader right now for the VP race?
I still do. We've talked about it before that I still think it's Ben Carson. Every time this VP discussion comes up back from my folks in the inner circle, it's like we're looking for somebody that's not running for president. I've thrown out the name Linda McMahon. I want to make it clear I'm the only person who's doing that, but that fits the description.
Okay.
It's right. Marsha Blackburn. You got to get Marsha Blackburn on your list.
He thinks Blackburn's up there.
Get it in there.
All right, turning now to Donald Trump, who is amping up the rhetoric against President Biden. During a speech at an RNC fundraising retreat over the weekend, the former president said that Biden is, quote, running a Gestapo administration. The Gestapo, as you know, was the Nazis' infamous police force. Mick, here's what I want to ask you, because you have been very vocal about the left comparing Trump to Hitler. You have said time and time again here on this show that it needs to stop. Do you take issue with what Trump said there? Did he go too far?
I don't like this language at all. I really don't. I'm not going to defend the language. If I was going to compare it to, say, Hillary Clinton, when she said publicly about 3 months ago, let's not forget, we're looking at Donald Trump, that Hitler was elected. Those were public statements. What Trump said was at a private fundraiser. It leaked out. That's not an excuse. You shouldn't be using the language at all. But there's a difference between coming out and saying it in public. By the way, Hillary Clinton's wrong about that. Adolf Hitler was not elected. And the pushback against Trump on this has been completely disproportionate to the pushback against Hillary Clinton. It's wrong. This is not good language. You shouldn't be using it. It doesn't help anybody. But it just, again, draws the distinction between the way that Trump is treated and everybody else who wants to say bad things about Trump.
All right, let's turn now to what's going on up on Capitol Hill. Short time ago, a meeting between the House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mick's got enough juice in him from this long day that he's already laughing about this one. Mike Johnson meeting with those two, Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They want Johnson ousted. They will meet again tomorrow, we are told, Mick, with the Speaker. It comes after Greene vowed to bring a vote to boot the Speaker this week. Johnson, the Speaker of the House, addressed the frustration after the meeting. Watch.
Frustration, I share it. I would really like to advance much more of our conservative policy on a daily basis here, but the reality is we are working with the smallest majority in U.S. history.
All right, Mick, what are you hearing? What's going on here?
Yeah, I want to make it clear. I put Thomas Massie in a different category than I do Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know both these folks, and Thomas is a serious lawmaker. That being said, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not. I'm not sure what you would talk about for 2 hours. I can't remember the last time I talked to somebody for 2 hours, unless it was Kim Jong-un, and I've just forgotten about it. I'm sure that Mike Johnson desperately wants the last 2 hours of his life back. This is what he has to put up with. This is why, by the way, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is at the end of her rope with all of the rest of her colleagues. And the reason that if she brings the motion, and at this point I don't think she will, it will be tabled. It will be overwhelmingly tabled by both Democrats and Republicans alike. So she will be publicly rebuked in a way that I think a lot of folks are actually looking forward to. So in a bizarre way, I think a lot of folks are hoping she makes the motion so they can shut this down and shut her up and move on to whatever it is the House was going to try to do with that slim majority that Mike Johnson mentioned. But this is just, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene looking for television and succeeding.
Okay. And raising a lot of money, Mick.
Right.
Yeah, but Mick, if I may, a meeting for 2 hours, they had to talk about something. What could Speaker Johnson offer her, give her, or negotiate with her to make these issues go away, based on your experience and just based on the overall, your overall observations?
Yeah, my guess is, and it's an educated guess, is that she talked for most of the 2 hours. And that Mike, being a gentleman, was simply too polite to sort. No, I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up, and I don't mean to. I guess I'm making light of it, but no. My guess is this was never about what they were going to discuss. This was so that Marjorie Taylor Greene could announce that she was having a meeting, have press after the meeting, announce they're having another meeting tomorrow. They'll do press before that, and go back to what I actually just mentioned. She's raising a ton of money off of this. How often have we talked on the show about the misaligned incentives in politics these days? This was a great day for Marjorie Taylor Greene in her own mind.
Yeah, it always is, isn't it, Mick? It's always, and I think I propose that maybe the Republicans on this panel and you might agree, I think it's time that we start flipping the script on people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and start calling them the rhinos, because anyone who's a Republican in name only but doesn't ever act in the interest of the party or their country shouldn't be allowed to claim that and somehow turn it on as an attack on people who are seriously trying to govern.
Yeah, it's hard to argue.
You don't have to all agree at the same
time. She's running out of friends. She's running out of folks who want to be seen with her. She's running out of folks that want to help her.
Yeah.
I just want to note, by the way, before we go, and that was Hot Mike with Mick.
Well done, Mick.
Mulvaney just popped off a plane and like that.
Yeah, I just want to know if he brushed his teeth on the plane when he got off.
Oh, God, there we go. No, come on.
Too far. Too soon.
Did I what on the plane? Whoa.
Brush your teeth.
Oh, my gosh.
Brush your teeth.
What did I do on the plane?
Did you brush your teeth?
Brush my teeth.
Oh,
I was in 55J today. They do not give out the toothbrushes in 55J. I got news for you. There's a reason I look like this.
That's why he's in a private room. He's in a private room.
But to be clear, rushing around halfway across the world, coming here on the show and dropping that knowledge. Mulvaney, we thank you, sir. Appreciate it. By the way, tomorrow night on The Hill, the Grammy Award-winning singer Gloria Estefan joins us for an exclusive interview to discuss military recruitment. She is meeting with the Secretary of the Navy during Fleet Week in Miami as a way to encourage more Cuban Americans to join the armed forces. Gloria Estefan here on The Hill tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That was fun time. On the other side of the break, why was RFK Jr. viewed as spam on Meta? One of his ads on Facebook and Instagram was temporarily taken down over the weekend. So what's going on? Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, joins us. You're watching The Hill here on News Nation.
News Nation. Crisis on the border.
From the air and on the ground, ride with Border Patrol Live and see what our law enforcement are truly battling.
A must-see primetime event Thursday night at 9/8 Central, only on News Nation.
All right, so before we say goodbye, here's a story that caught our eye. Look at that headline there from the New York Times. Presidential candidate RFK Jr. claims censorship after Facebook and Instagram briefly blocked his new ad. Meta, the parent company of the two social media platforms, as you know, says the campaign video was incorrectly flagged as spam. And the issue has since been resolved. Leland Vittert, host of On Balance.
Incorrectly.
Yeah, incorrect. Someone makes that decision.
Or an algorithm does. Look,
someone programs the algo.
Perhaps Facebook and Meta have done this before.
Yes, sir.
Not the first time. Okay, so look, this is where we get into the brave new world, though, of political advertising. And I think you're going to see throughout the next 6 months deep fakes come out.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to have a lot of situations where, to quote someone famous, I don't remember who, a lie can get around the world before the truth gets its boots on, and that is the problem right now. And considering how many people now get their news on social media, it's the wild west.